Welcome to Coaches on a Mission.
Hi, Dallas. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited. I love talking about courses and offerings and how those all fit together like a perfect puzzle. And I know that's on your agenda today. So it should be a really helpful call to our listeners. Before we dive into that, I'd love to just get a bit of a status report from you. You've been in the Hive now for a couple of months. How's it going so far?
It's going incredible. I feel like I've been part of it for like forever in a good way. It's actually really only been like a month and a half, but I've definitely have dived right in, which is kind of how I do things. And I'm just loving, I'm loving the content for sure, and I am loving the community so much, and just feel very enriched by it. So I'm very excited to be part of it.
We're glad to have you. And that just makes me so happy to hear, because I think a lot of programs like say they have a cool community, and we work really, really hard to follow through on that promise. So it warms my heart to see that paying off. All right, so let's dive in. Can you share with me what you want to walk away from this conversation with?
Yes. I have a vision for a signature program that I would like to launch sometime in hopefully early 2023. And I am looking for clarity on sort of a lead-in offer to that bigger program. How to structure that, how to price it in comparison to the bigger program, and also the timing around when I should have this sort of lead-in offer in relation to the timing of when I will start the bigger signature program. And also maybe how often if my vision for my signature program is that it'll have sort of open enrollment once I get it going. So my question would be, how often do I roll out this lead-in offer as a live offer?
Mm-hmm. Great. Good question. All right. So what I'm actually hearing you say here is that you would like to model your own version of what we do with the Hive and client search. So does that feel accurate to you? Cool.
Yes,
Great.
I absolutely do. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So just to loop our listeners in, and maybe to help you too, I'd love to just create some context by using the Hive and client search as an example, and then we can dive right into your version of that.
Great.
So the Hive, as you know, is a year-long mentorship program, and it's designed to take coaches all the way from I'm a coach and I think I know what my niche is, but I'm not totally confident in that, right? All the way through getting your message down and your content strategy and finding clients, hiring, and launching with a course. So it's like everything in one container. What we found, because Client Surge is actually course number 3 in that 8-course journey. The reason, and this is really important, perhaps the place that you and I need to begin. The reason we pulled Client Surge out to offer as a standalone program was really to help those coaches who are perfect candidates for the Hive. They are my dream client, but they do not have the experience of consistent clients yet. So the idea of committing to a year was completely overwhelming to them. So they were really in the position of, I know I want to do the Hive, but can I please have 3 clients? Can I please get that piece down, and then I will feel more confident making the financial investment, but also making that bigger time commitment. So it was a very strategic decision to pull Client Surge out. It wasn't just, I'd like to have an intro offer and then people can upgrade. We did it to overcome an obstacle that our dream clients faced when considering an investment in the Hive.
Okay.
So the
Yeah.
benefit of that has been A, people get clients, so now their Hive tuition is covered and they're confident and feel amazing. But B, they are in an 8 to 10 week container with me, truly experiencing what it's like to go through my trainings. Like, what is my teaching style? How do I coach people? What is this community? So it's like this taste test, right?
Yeah.
That makes it easy to know if the Hive is a full yes or if the Hive is actually not for you. So that, everybody, is the reasoning behind why we offer Client Surge separate from the Hive. Not everyone has to do Client Surge first, but it's really for those people who are overwhelmed by that year-long commitment. Okay, so I
Okay.
just talked a
Yep.
lot, but does that all land for you? And do you feel like you have
Yeah,
an
yeah,
understanding?
it
Okay.
makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I hadn't realized that since I didn't do client search before,
Mm-hmm.
so I knew about it, but I didn't realize it was quite as long of a container. I thought it was more like 30 days, but I guess there's before and after. Is that? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the Client Surge process a coach goes through is 30 days, but
Okay,
the program itself is longer, just so people don't have to start surging on day 1 of the course.
makes sense. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So I think, but I'm going to ask you to tell people about your audience first. But I think the first question for us to address is, what is the intention and the reason behind having an intro program? Like, is it truly necessary? So before we
Okay,
go there, tell everybody who you serve
okay.
and how you do it.
Yeah, so I am a book coach, and I serve LGBTQ plus writers, and I help them raise their voice, write their stories, and become published authors. And I focus on memoir writers and writers writing other nonfiction.
Hmm.
So that's who I serve. Is that enough detail?
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
One of the things
Okay.
that really inspires me about your work is this mission to help LGBTQ plus writers see that they're not that their voice matters, and they're also not the only LGBTQ plus writer in the world, right? So this
Right.
idea of building community for them is really important to you.
Exactly. I think that for me, and this will tie into what we'll be talking about, for
Yeah.
me, my two superpowers and what I love to do the most is both help writers actually find the deeper story that they want to tell,
Mm.
and then build community among writers. So those are the two really critical pieces for me. The other piece, which I didn't mention, is that I'm also a memoir writer myself, and
Right.
so I have personal experience on that side of the table that I can share with my writers.
Yeah.
Um, so your question about what's my
Hmm.
intention behind the intro, or do I even really need one? Um, so I think there's some parallels to what you said about client search in the Hive.
Hmm.
I I'm also envisioning a year-long program. I've kind of gone back and forth between 6 months and a year, but I think that I think I'm going to be brave enough to say that I want to do it for a year, because
Yeah.
I know writing a book is not it's not something you do in 30 days. It isn't something that you can just, you can just whip it out, but those aren't the kinds of books that I'm really interested in helping writers to write. I want them to write books that are um, quality books, and that takes time. And
Hmm.
so I do tend to work, at least at this point in my book coaching career, with newer writers who they have a story they're burning to tell and write, but they've never written a book before. They may have done a lot of other writing, but they've never written a book before, and they really, really want to do it, but they have no idea really all the steps involved and really what it takes. And so I do think that it's a lot to ask someone at that stage to jump into a year-long program without
Mhm.
having some sense of, who they're committing to working with, and also really some sense of like what are the steps along the way to get to write a book. I mean, many writers won't finish a book in a year either, but they will get far along in that journey. And if they are working consistently with support and
Mhm.
accountability, they can definitely get a first draft written within a year.
Got it.
So, yes, some of the same objections I think I'm anticipating.
Mhm.
Um, the other part, which I guess is somewhat parallel to what you said with client search, is that the intro course is really foundational. It's
Okay.
found, well, I guess that's a little different from client search.
Mhm.
But but the intro course, which I ran 2 versions of last spring, it's really getting clear on the foundations, answering the big questions you need to ask and answer before you actually sit down and write your book.
Mhm.
Um, and it really, in my system, is what needs to happen first.
Yeah.
Um, so
Okay.
now I'm
Yeah.
talking a lot.
No, this is really helpful. Okay, a couple of things. Number one, you know from experience that the that it takes a year to get to a solid draft. And anyone saying it takes less time is either A, not giving you the full picture, or B, like not experienced enough to understand the ups and downs and the planning and all that actually goes into creating the quality of book you, Suzette, are interested in helping people write.
Yes.
So I wonder so what I'm hearing you say is as a newer writer, especially being like there are programs like the 90-day novel or write your book
Yep.
in 30 days or like book in a weekend. So
Yep.
they may not really understand what it actually takes. I'm going to guess they also have been thinking about this for a while. So
Yes.
they've been writing the book. I'm using air quotes for our
Hmm.
listeners. They've been mentally writing the book for their entire lives. So the idea of, are you joking? Like, I finally feel ready. And now you're telling me it's going to take a year before I have a first draft. Like, that is a buzzkill. So, how can
Yeah.
we create an intro program to help them align their expectations with reality and also
Mm,
give them like a quick win
yeah.
so that they're more ready to invest in themselves through your longer program? Did I
Yeah.
interpret what you said
Yeah.
accurately?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think you absolutely did. And I think that is one of the biggest challenges that the I face as a book coach, and I know there's a number of book coaches in the Hive, and we all share similar philosophy. Is that we know that
Mhm.
this is a marathon. It's not a sprint, and how to yeah, I love your word buzzkill. I mean, it's like
Mhm.
you want to be in integrity, you want to be
Yeah.
truthful about what it really takes, but you don't want to like discourage them before they even start and they say, "Oh, forget about it." So
Right.
it is a very fine. It's a dance.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, and I love the idea of what you said, a quick win. Yeah.
Mhm. So I'm taking us off track, but I have to say this
Hmm.
and then we'll come back on track. But just like for the record,
Yeah.
on a coaching call somewhere inside the Hive, because I know you're working on your catchy catchphrases and your content pillars. One
Yes.
of your content pillars needs to be around this piece. Like
Okay.
a meaningful memoir does not happen in a weekend. Anyone
Yes.
saying otherwise is not giving you the full picture. There's a catchy catchphrase. So
Yeah, I
really
like it.
drilling that home so that as your audience climbs that awareness ladder, they're bought in to this truth, to this agreement with you that the kind of book they want to put out into the world requires time and intentionality. Okay, so there's our
Yeah.
little commercial break for
Okay.
you. Let's
Yes.
come back to
Yes.
designing your offerings.
Yes.
So I'm glad we're talking about this because it sounds really clear that having an intro course is helpful for your audience and will actually help your sales process. I want to just say for our listeners, it was important to me to ask Suzette this question because so often we find ourselves in programs where we see the business model the teacher runs and we just model their model, or the teacher has a framework and this is how you do it, and it may not actually serve your audience best. So I just wanted to check in, Suzette, and make sure that just because it fits my business, I wanted to make sure it also fits yours, but it does really sound aligned to me.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's my next question around this intro piece. What is, or how clear do you feel on what the focus of the intro class is versus what's delivered in the year-long program?
Yeah, I feel pretty clear about it.
Okay.
Um, I so yes. Okay, so I feel pretty clear. I feel
Okay.
pretty clear about it. Let's see if I can actually say what I'm feeling, if I
Okay.
can articulate it. Um, yeah, so the the intro course, which I'm planning to model on what a couple of courses I ran in the spring,
Yeah.
um, is to get the writer clear on really what's the point of their book, why are they writing it, who are they writing it for, um, some other market related questions, and the quick win is that at the end of the course, which we're going to hopefully define how long this course is going to be, and I can
Yeah.
talk about what I did before and what I'm thinking now, is
Mm-hmm.
that they will have a high level outline, and I have a name for it. I call it the tent poles scene
Yeah.
outline, which are the key scenes that they know need to be in their story.
Okay.
Um, and they also will have a draft of their first scene. And that's a learning I took from
Mm.
the previous cohorts I ran, because one of the comments I didn't have them writing the first scene in the last cohort, and one of the comments I got as feedback was that, and from a couple of people, is that the transition from all of these, great foundational questions and outlining, but then to actually writing
Mm.
felt hard. And I was, and I thought, okay, this is easy just to get them so that they have already kind of gone over that hump. They've actually written a scene, the first scene, which may or may not end up being the first scene in their book, but they've they've written something and they
Yes.
know they can do it. So that is what I want them to end with, and then they can transition into the bigger program and they can start doing a bigger outline and learning what it really means to write a scene and all of the craft things and the accountability.
Love it.
Yeah,
I love
and I
that.
would
It's mhm.
and I would envision that, and I mean, maybe this is a layer of complication we don't need to talk about, but I would envision down the road that I would have this course content sitting inside my bigger program, just like you have
Yeah.
it with Client Surge, so that if somebody just wants to come straight into the program, they can do that more
Yeah.
on their, self-study on their own, and not have to do it live with me.
Yeah. I love it. Okay, so if we're using Client Surge as the model here, I just want to draw the parallel for all of our
Yeah.
listeners. With Client Surge, The obstacle we're overcoming is I don't know that I can pay for it every month for a year.
Yeah.
So we do that by we get you clients. Great. Now you can easily pay for it. But also it's this other piece of, oh my gosh, I just did that. I actually know how to get clients. I actually see how I can do it again. I saw myself just do that thing I have struggled to do. Same thing with your audience. They've been thinking about this book for who knows how long. They have this, you help them build out a roadmap, your tent pole. So now that the book feels more real. And I just had the experience of writing a scene and I survived. And I'm actually
Yeah.
really, really jazzed about writing the next scene. And I believe that I am capable now. So that's like the inner promise here, is giving them
Yeah.
the experience so that they believe in themselves enough to invest the time and the money and the heart and soul into writing the full book. I love it so much. It's really
Okay,
good.
great. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Should we get into some of the nitty gritty questions you have around
Yes.
all of this?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yes.
So, where would you like to begin? Which burning question should we tackle first?
Um, let's talk about um, how long the program, the intro course should be. Um, when I ran it before, I ran two similar, slightly different versions of it last spring, and they were both 6-week courses. And but I'm thinking that I would prefer to do it as a 4-week course. And the reason I'm saying that, well, I have a couple of reasons why. One is that before I didn't have anything to follow the course up with, which is part of the
Mm-hmm.
problem, which is why
Yeah.
I'm trying to provide a solution to that. So I was sort of throwing in a lot of other things because I had this sort of sense of like, well, they need to know this, they need to know this, they need to know this, and now I don't have to do that in this because I've got a tighter
Mm-hmm.
reason,
Promise. Yeah.
yeah, promise content. So and I also thought that 4 weeks versus, so 4 weeks for it somewhat, it's really going to be more than 4 weeks because there'll be stuff for them to do ahead of time and then maybe a little stuff after time. But 4 sessions with me, like four calls, and
Okay.
it yeah, it feels more doable for people
Okay.
and for me
Great.
too.
So I think there are three considerations. One is, what do you want? Actually, you, Suzette, as a business owner and a coach, what do you want? All right. But then when we center the client, I think there are two considerations. What is an appropriate amount of time so that they finish and they're successful? I
Yes.
see often program like, I'm going to do a 6-week course. And actually, I'm going to sidebar for a second here, everybody.
Hmm.
This is not the first question to answer when you're designing an offering. Suzette already knows the promise of her course. She's actually delivered it twice now in various versions. So she's addressed some of these other questions, are like, what is the promise and how am I going to deliver that? Often though, we make the mistake of, I have an idea to run a course and I want it to be 6 weeks long, and then we try to cram content into that time frame when really the promise of the program should inform the content. And the content of the program then should inform the container,
Yeah.
not the other way around. So that's for everybody. Now, so the two considerations now are, what's the appropriate amount of time so that people can be successful? Number two, what is an appropriate amount of time that is like gives a permission structure for them to say yes? So 4 weeks might be easy to say yes to. Is it enough time for people to actually experience their win and feel ready to upgrade into your larger course? Because that's really the goal here, is to get them into the year-long program. So do you have any data around the completion rate or the success rate of the other two versions of this program?
Yeah, I do. And what's interesting is that um, in the 6-week course, the virtually everyone did the first 4 assignments.
Uh-huh.
And then the last couple of weeks there was more, less completion. And part of that, I believe, is not because the course was too long. Part of it was that what I had as the final 2 assignments
Mm-hmm.
was too hard for them to do,
Uh,
given the time frame. And so I am carving that part off.
Great.
I'm ending the course before that, and so the assignments. It's a more sophisticated um, type of outlining, and
Mm,
structural questions, and those are things that we'll do inside the longer program once they've had
got
the
it.
foundation, and they'll do that at their own pace.
Mm-hmm.
So I I do have that answer now. One other piece of data I do have, though, which might cut the other way, is that I did send a survey to everyone after the 2 courses, and no one said that they thought 6 weeks was too long. And some people wished it had been longer. Some people
Yeah,
were like, it went so fast, I wish it had been longer, whatever. So that's probably something I should pay attention to. Yeah.
absolutely. And as someone I've been doing this for a really long time, I've run a lot of different programs. Without a doubt, a couple of things you can count on. People will come in already, it's call number 1. We haven't done anything yet, and people will come in already afraid that they're behind schedule. Number 2, people appreciate spaciousness. So I think you're on to something here, that maybe it's 4 calls. Oh, and there's a third piece here, but there's space in
Hmm.
between for implementation. And then the third piece, so they come in feeling behind, right? They appreciate spaciousness. And for some people, it takes even like 2 full weeks to start to get in the groove before they start being consistent with their actions. So if it's a 4-week program, I fear that they will not be set up to win. And if they don't win, they're not going to enroll into this larger program that will really help them get their book out into the world. But how do you feel about this as a proposed structure? You could have a kickoff call, which is just like, let's get to know each other a little bit. And maybe it's like a
Hmm.
little bit of partner work. It's really just like creating belonging and helping
Yep.
everyone see the road ahead. Kind of
Hmm.
like you do when you
Hmm.
join the Hive, right? You've got a kickoff
Sure.
call with Kylie. And then you do like the assignments with 3 Q&As. So 3 weeks of Q&A, a week off for implementation, and then wrap it up with 2 more Q&A calls. So it's 5 calls. Well, 6 really with that
Yeah.
like kickoff call,
Hmm.
but
Hmm.
it's 6 calls, but it's over the course of 8 weeks. I think you will see a higher conversion into your larger program.
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing is, Dallas, the work that I do in this program, in this intro program, I love it.
Okay.
It's like, this is like, literally, if I could just do this all the time, I would do it. And I also know that I want to provide
Mhm.
I felt terrible that I didn't have the next thing for
I
these
know.
writers to continue to support them. So
Yeah.
um, I, I want to create this larger container for them to
Yeah.
then actually get their books written. So I do. I do like the idea of having more spaciousness here.
Yeah.
And um, can I just ask another
Yeah.
question related to that? So one of the things I did with the second cohort that I ran last spring, so I had one under my belt and I, tweaked it a little bit, was that for the first call of 6, I did something somewhat similar to, I think, what you're suggesting here, the kickoff call. And really what the assignment was, that I wanted them to write about their fears about writing their book, and
Mm.
also their dreams about writing their book. So just to sort of get that emotional stuff out. And then I invited them to share those with each other if they felt comfortable. And it was really great. It was super successful. It was just a great way to break the ice and get it all out.
Mhm.
Now, I was thinking, but I can change my mind because I haven't done anything yet. I
Mhm.
had been thinking that rather than start this cohort with that, now this is again, this intro course with that, this is again when in my mindset, I was thinking, oh, I've gotten to do 4 weeks, so I need to cut some things out. But I had been thinking of doing that kind of dream, fear and dream work as a free master class that would be
Mhm.
a lead in to this program. So kind of thinking of the whole funnel, like
Yeah.
I'm still working on the lead gen and all of that, and that's a whole nother thing because my list is still small, and working on all that. But um, having doing this master class as a free class, and getting people to start thinking about their fears and their dreams and writing them, and maybe even sharing them, and then the invitation is to come to this
Intro
foundations class,
program.
intro
Yep.
intro program.
Mhm.
And then the invitation is to go to the bigger
Yeah.
program. How does
Yeah.
that sound to you? Or should I just do it all inside this intro program? Is it too
Yeah,
many layers? I don't know.
well, it all requires testing, so it would be
Mhm.
interesting to test that fears and dreams topic as your launch webinar topic. But regardless, not everyone is going to watch the webinar. So,
Sure.
what I thought was this dreams and fears assignment could be the welcome assignment. So I sign up
Hmm.
for the program. Maybe I've already done it in the webinar. So look at me. I'm so ahead of
Yeah.
schedule. I already feel so successful. If I
Yeah.
haven't
Yeah.
already done it during the webinar, it's all right, our first call is happening on the 15th. And before then, here is your assignment. So then when
Right.
folks come together for that implementation or pre-game welcome call,
Hmm.
they can still do the sharing because I think that's really powerful.
Yeah. Hmm.
And but they don't have
Yep.
to do any of the writing. So I would test it as the webinar, but regardless, it can be their pre-work before the course begins.
Yeah. That's good. Yeah. I like
Cool.
that. I like that.
Okay. So just in terms of a consideration for you, I want you to really prioritize the client experience and what is the structure here that sets them up to bring their book to life. What do they
Yeah.
need in
Yeah.
order to meet that promise? And then we can
Yeah.
circle back. You can like ping me or ask on a coaching call. But I think you're closer to an 8-week container with 4 or 5 calls with you than this tiny, especially if the goal now for your business is to move them into the longer program. They're going to need more experience with you in order to feel ready to move into the longer program.
Right, right. Okay. Yeah, I hear that. I hear that. So the the and yes, I will sit with your
Great.
question of how of what they need, what the client the
Hmm.
structure that they need in order to do that. So Are you ready for me to ask the
Yeah,
next question?
I know where
Okay,
we're
okay,
going.
okay.
Here we
All right.
go.
Well, okay. Well, there's two more, and I don't know which one it makes more sense. But so if I'm looking at what is more like an 8-week experience with
Mhm.
maybe 6 calls over 8 weeks,
Mhm.
more or less. How often does it make sense to offer this?
Uh-huh.
How and annually, and how what's the timing with respect
Yeah.
to the launch of the bigger program?
Okay. Great question. So this is going to be a moving target. So I want to talk like
Hmm.
bigger picture, and then we'll get right into your likely schedule for right now.
Great.
If the larger program has rolling enrollment, which I think is your plan, right? When people
Hmm.
are imagine that, a program where when people are ready, it's there for them. It's amazing.
Yes. Yeah.
That's what we do inside of the Hive. So if that has rolling enrollment, and this initial program is designed to overcome barriers to entry for the larger program, you will
Yep.
launch the initial program more often in the beginning than you do as your business grows. So I'll
Got
use
it.
again my business as an example. This past year, we launched Client Surge twice because Client Surge is excellent enrollment for the Hive.
Yep.
Moving into next year, we're only going to launch Client Surge once. And there could be a time where we no longer launch Client Surge separately because I know the real value, if what you want is to transform your business, you need to be in the Hive. Client Surge
Sure.
solves an immediate problem, but it's not a business model, right?
Right.
So how often do you launch? It depends on how consistent you are with list building, right? Can your launch schedule keep up with your list building habits? And where are you at in terms of enrollment needs for the longer program? So all of that being said, my feedback would be to plan in this first year to launch the intro class twice, maybe even a third time.
Yep.
Does that feel aligned? You
Yeah.
nodded. That sounds aligned
Yeah.
with you.
Absolutely. I think that's exactly what I had been thinking,
Yeah.
and I now have a better understanding, really, of why that's important. I mean, I think I had been thinking like, oh, they need to do this so that they can be successful in the bigger program. And I also like doing it, so let's do it. But I hadn't really been thinking so much about the overcoming the objections and how
Great.
about the length of the program. So now I see that, and I
Great.
see how the longer you're doing your program, the more you, that you may not have to do this quite
Mhm.
quite as often.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah,
And here's why, this is for everybody listening. Your marketing can help folks overcome the objection or the obstacle that this smaller program was designed to overcome. So as you become more
yes,
established and the word spreads, and that you don't like your marketing does that heavy lift, you don't have to have a program that does it. But I think
right.
straight out of the gate, I would plan on doing it twice. And my suggestion would be to organize the launch calendar to look something like, and I'm just going to start with January because that's how I can think about a year, but I
Sure.
know we're going to get this going sooner. But in January, you launch your intro course with the intention of the longer program launching 90 days later, so that graduates of the intro course, it's like, great, guess what? As we're wrapping up, here's the next step for you. And it's just this really smooth transition.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Yep. I like that.
And then
Yeah,
moving
because I don't want
forward,
there to
yeah,
be
go
this
ahead.
big gap,
Yeah,
like they do it and then like, oh, in 6, yeah, I like
yeah.
that. Yeah.
And what I would even recommend would be to back into this, meaning get the first section or module or piece of the big course created. Make sure it's clear, make sure it's
Yep.
created, that it exists for people to roll into that. Once that exists, then you can confidently create your launch schedule for this other program. Instead of finding yourself week 6 in this other program, spinning your wheels and slapsticking something together just to have an offer, I would actually do it backwards because, again, everybody, our goal is not just to make sales with this intro program, it's to help people finish their books. And where they finish their book is inside of the larger program. So build your primary offering first and then build your marketing schedule around it. And it doesn't have to be, the whole year doesn't have to be finished, Suzette, but that first section I think needs to be rock solid.
Yeah. So Dallas, can you I may have lost you just a little bit.
Oh, sure.
So no. Theoretically, say we launch the intro program in January,
Okay.
and your suggestion is that the full program is ready to go 90 days after I launch the intro course in January. So, we're talking that would be April. Shouldn't it be ready to go like as soon as they finish
Yep.
the
I'm glad you're asking
Okay.
for
Okay.
clarification. So if we were to create a to-do list, this is what it
Mhm.
might look like. Priority number 1 is let me get module 1 of the larger program. Let me get clear enough on that. Let me make it real enough that if someone actually signed up for that program today, there would be something there for them. I'm going to do
Sure.
that first. And when that's
Okay.
ready, that will inform my launch schedule for the smaller program,
Okay. Okay.
right? So let's just say you get that ready this week.
Yeah.
Then we would want the intro program to begin about 90 days before, like, I mean, this is kind of irrelevant now because it already exists, but basically we want the launch of the marketing of the larger program to happen at the end of the initial program. So the first time you open the doors for that, it's the next step for these folks, and there will also be a public invitation for others. That's what I
Got
was
it.
getting at.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I understand now. Yeah, I get that. And one of the things that you and I had talked about on a previous Hive call was possibly having sort of a soft invitation for the larger program with some of um,
Yeah.
my previous writers, so I could do that.
Mhm.
This I haven't done that yet because I didn't know all these
Yeah.
other pieces, but it's been on my mind, so I could still do that, and they could be I could be sort of building the content with them, right?
Mhm.
Before the bigger program gets launched to the public and for this first
Yeah.
cohort that is coming in my new intro course.
Yeah.
Does
I have
that
a
make
super
sense?
I have a wild idea here. Tell me what you think about it.
Okay.
So, to fill all of our listeners in, a strategy that has worked so well for me when it comes to creating new offers and launching them is to pre-sell them in some way. Because, if it's on my list, I'll get to it at some point. But if someone has paid me money for a program that starts on November 1st, you damn well better bet that program will start on November 1st. So it's this really
Sure.
great like accountability for us, but it's also, and this is where it really relates to you, it's also such a beautiful way to honor or serve those students who have worked with you in the past. So
Yeah.
you could do a lifetime membership or a founding member launch to your
Hmm.
larger program this week,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And what they get is they get to go through the new version of the intro class along with the new students. So
Oh,
that's what we
yeah.
give them in the meantime, right?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
here's why this is really impactful. I feel like I'm giving away all my secrets, but I
Yeah.
don't care. I'm like, will this plan still work on people if they know I'm doing it? I think one of the reasons why Client Surge converts into the Hive so well is we have Hive members who surge along with Client Surge students, and
Oh,
they're
okay.
talking about the Hive. They're like raising the bar for people. They're really creating the sense of belonging. So that's a win across the board. You have people who've been through the process or a version of the process before. They feel totally loved on because they get this really
Yeah.
special bonus, and they will do the selling for you into the
Yeah.
larger program.
I love that idea. I guess the only question that is coming up for me, and this might be different, one difference with, say, the Client Surge that you
Mm-hmm.
have is that I'm just not sure my previous clients who've done this before would want to do it again. Like they've
That is
kind of
not for
done
you
it.
to know. That is not for
Okay,
you to
okay,
know.
okay,
That
okay.
is
They
for
can
them to
say yes, they can
decide.
say no. Right, right.
Yeah,
And
and
they
they
get
can
and they get
want
some
the charter membership and decide not to participate in the other thing. Like
sure,
it doesn't have to
sure.
be one or the other. You will
Right.
be surprised. You will be
Well,
surprised
and
at how much
and
people want to review.
actually that's a really good point because the process that I take writers through in this beginning is it is iterative. I mean, it's not like a one and
Yeah.
done thing, so people may want to revisit it. So that
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right.
Okay,
So
I love it.
before we wrap up, I know you really wanted to talk like strategy around pricing. Should we take a few
Yes.
minutes and have that
Yes.
conversation? Okay.
That would be great. That would be great.
So what's your
Y-
question around
Well,
pricing?
my question was how to price the intro offer in relation to the year-long offer. So, I mean, and I haven't settled on a price, at all.
Mhm.
I mean, I have a lot of ideas, but I'm thinking what I'll do is similar to what you do for the Hive, which is that there's an annual fee, but that you can pay it all at once, or you can pay it in monthly
Mhm.
installments. And I think that, for most people, they're going to choose the monthly because that's,
Mhm.
that's more comfortable financially for people. So if I'm having a what looks like it's going to be an 8-week program, so basically a 2-month intro program, does it make sense to kind of get people used to spending, a certain dollar amount um, for that they'll just continue to spend monthly?
Mhm.
That's my
Your
question.
Our thinking is completely aligned. So, I think there are 3 considerations here. Strategically, we'll talk about the strategy piece first. If the goal is to make the year-long program like doable and like a hell yes for people, it's
Yeah.
really smart to match the payment plan for the intro course with the tuition for the larger program.
Yeah.
So I like your thinking there. And we can use the Hive as an example. Prices are going up, but
Okay.
today we are recording on September 12th, 2022. um, and the monthly tuition for the Hive is right around, it's just under $500.
Okay.
Okay. So what we did with Client Surge was the Client Surge is $950, or it's 2 payments of like whatever that math works out to be. So
Hmm.
that payment is basically the same thing. The
Right.
other piece is people, because Client Surge is a part of the Hive, people have a 90-day window after they finish Client Surge to apply their Client Surge tuition to their Hive tuition. So that they're not paying
Okay.
twice for training. That
Okay.
creates like ethical urgency for people, which
Mm.
I has worked really
Hmm.
well to help them move the needle. So I'm with you on that. I think whatever the payment plan is, it needs to be pretty darn close to the payment plan for the larger program. And then the two questions to consider with pricing is like, what price will your audience value? Instead of what price can they afford, what price will they value? So I'm making this up here, Suzette, but like a $97 8-week program, they don't have enough skin in the game to actually
No,
follow through.
no.
And then what is a meaningful price for your time, your energy, and
Yeah,
your investment?
yeah,
Understanding that pricing is a moving target, right? And the longer you do this, the likelihood of your prices increasing is extremely high, but those are the considerations.
yeah. And I think I hadn't really thought so much about the I forget what's the term you use, that you could roll in the yeah, and that could be a really good incentive,
Mhm.
because yeah, I really like that. And I also like the way you are framing how to think about the pricing, because as you know, I mean, I'm very committed to wanting to make
Mhm.
this affordable for my audience. And I also don't want to get into a position where I'm feeling resentful of the time I'm putting in if I'm
Yeah.
undercharging. So it's kind of hit that. And I think I
Mhm.
do. I'm getting more and more clarity on what feels like the
Yeah.
right price point. So that's really helpful.
That's great. And I want to offer another small reframe here, which is thinking about price accessibility rather than affordability.
Okay.
And here's like, there's just a lot of, I think accessibility opens us up to more creative solutions where affordability just, I, at least I get very narrow minded and it's like, all right, cheap.
Hmm.
Affordability equals cheap
Sure.
or
Sure.
accessible. You could have extended payment programs as an option for people. Down the road, you can have a sliding scale pricing option. Like there's a lot that you can do when we just replace the word affordable with accessible.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's great. That's great.
So, around pricing, what's the action item for you that you and I can circle back on a Hive call or in the Facebook group? I want to help you feel confident and
Yeah.
clear around your pricing.
Yeah, I feel like I'm getting close to a number that feels right. So I would I can share that both in the Facebook group, both in terms of
Okay,
the for the intro course, and then that would be aligned with what the kind of monthly payment would be for the bigger program.
that's
Yeah.
great. Okay,
Yeah.
great.
I think the thing that that I'm still a little fuzzy about, and I know that we're wrapping up, is just when when I so what you did say is the first priority is getting the first part of the bigger program solid, and I could tomorrow I could invite the other people in. So that's what I should focus on first, right? And
Hmm.
from there I can plan out when the intro program is going to get launched.
Yeah. So, if we created an action list for you,
Yes.
I'm with you. So, step one would be make the bigger program real enough that the people who are going to sign up as lifers have somewhere to go once they sign up.
Yep. Yep.
So great. Now it's real. You've got accountability. There's urgency for you, the course creator. Number
Yep.
two, let's do this inside the Hive. We call it the flash sale protocol, but let's do like a nice invitation to graduates of your program. You've run it 2 times. You have folks,
Mhm.
you've been really itching to have something to offer these people who are craving
Right.
it. So we can offer charter membership or lifetime
Mhm.
membership to them. They'll have somewhere to land. Also, the big benefit is they're going to get to redo the course along with new members. When those
Yep.
two things are done, you can look at your 90-day launch roadmap. 90 days, Suzette, includes a big chunk of time designing your course, which for you has already been done. So, more realistically, you're looking at like a 45-day launch roadmap for all the marketing and the moving pieces to launch the mini course.
Okay. Okay. Great.
And that I think is video number 6 inside of Course Catapult, the
Okay.
90-day launch roadmap.
Okay, great.
Cool. Does that feel like clear and
Yeah,
actionable enough for you? Awesome.
It does. It does.
It's exciting.
I feel better.
And I think the most important thing here is to just understand that it's going to be you and I are going to talk in 3 months, and you will learn something will unfold to help you build an even better plan than what we came up with today. And we have to
Right.
be agile enough to do that so that we're really serving the growth of our business, but also the growth of our students who need this work so much. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
well,
No, that's
I want to
great.
thank you for coming on the show. This was a really fun and helpful conversation. So thank you for bringing this forward today.
Thanks, Alice. I
Yeah,
really
you're
appreciate
welcome.
it.
You're welcome. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll see you back here next week.